Oh, where did we go when we were very young? When I was 7, I had a dog. His name was Bengo, and he was a corgi, and he came everywhere with me. And he died when I was 21, so we had him a long time. We used to play in the park an awful lot. There was the swings, and there was a roundabout there. And I think we used to go so fast on the roundabout, some of us used to throw up. So if you went one way, you didn't feel sick, but if you went the other way, you felt sick. So I believe it was Stuart Craddock, Graham Roach, me, Colin Jakeman, and a couple of the other girls from the Tom. We used to go down to the park and we used to play there for hours. You know, my mother never bothered where we were because she always knew we were okay. And then from there we used to walk up the lane. There was a lovely lane that went up from the park under the big bridge that had the railway buildings on top. There was a lovely lane that took you into the Ivy House Farms grounds, and then Stuart was there and Auntie Dulcie would give us a drink, and we'd walk up to my mum's place, and then we'd probably go up the farm, and then be up the castle, and we'd go in the castle because you didn't have to pay then, and we'd play for hours in there. And I said, in fact, my initials are carved into some of the lead flashing round the windows up there. How on earth I got out to do it, I'll never know. Probably hanging on by my fingertips. And then up into the woods. And we used to play for hours climbing trees. We found a cave up the woods and we'd be in there lighting fires. And you'd come out and be stinking of smoke. And Mum said, "Where you been?" I said, "Nowhere." He said, "What's that smell of smoke?" I said, "Oh, well, we did light a fire up the woods and used to have these twigs. I forget what they were called. And you could smoke them. And so they were hollow and you light the end. Oh, we did kill ourselves. I'll never know. We used to suck on them, pretend we were smoking. I can remember we built a bonfire down Graham Roach's garden, and Stuart were there and all the other boys, and I must have been an awful tomboy because I was always with the boys. And they actually pulled my socks off and threw them on the bonfire, so I had to go home and explain to my mother where my socks were. Of course, she didn't believe me. I said, "Well, Stuart's taken them off and he stuck them on top of the bonfire." "Don't be ridiculous," she said. "Stuart wouldn't do that." So I said, "No." We used to light the bonfire then, bonfire night, put potatoes in there, eat the potatoes. They're absolutely disgusting. They were charred black and raw on the inside, but we still ate them. Then we'd go up the rocks, which was behind Mill Road and Castle Road. Now the houses are built on there, and we always said that we'd have a house up there one day, but that didn't come to fruition, I'm afraid. And you could walk along the back and you'd come out by Roger Watkins's house, which is up on Ton Estate, on the council estate, and all these things people don't know about now. It was great fun. So where else have we used to go? Down the river. At that point the river used to stink because of all the coal dust that used to come down from up the valleys, and the side banks, they were black with coal dust and you couldn't see the bottom of the river. Now it's pristine. It's lovely. You've got fish in there. You can see the stones at the bottom and it's clean. It doesn't smell like it used to smell horrible. And then we go over the iron bridge through Bales Farm up to Morganstown, back down and around, dragging my poor little dog with one little tiny legs with me. In the end, he used to be so tired, I used to have to carry him home. And when the council estate was first built, I can remember there were the ruins of the old house there where Colonel Henry Lewis lived, and the stables, and one of my schoolmates, Andrew Brandrick, he was killed there. He was playing on the old stables and they collapsed and the rocks fell on him. He must have been about 12 or 13. So I think somebody announced it in school. We were all terribly upset because Andrew was an only child and his parents lived not far from my in-laws at the time, and they were devastated. And these sort of things stick in your mind because he was so young and he was only playing, but these things weren't made safe. So there's probably not any comeback on anyone because the Lewis family had gone a long, long time. And my very good friend, Vaughan Gibbons, bless him, he died when my son was quite young. He had Hodgkinson's, and he was one of my closest friends. And Howard Gaylard, and we used to go off and we just go in Howard's car and we end up in Portland Bill one day. Why? I got no idea. We actually drove past Filton, and it was when they took Concorde out of the hangars the first time, and we were watching it from the road going past Bristol. If we'd had a camera with us, we would have taken a picture of it. Another thing we used to get up to, because Vaughan was the only one, Vaughan and Howard, they learned to drive quite young, and Vaughan had a little car. Another highlight of the week was driving down the docks and counting the prostitutes. And I think, my God, we slowed down. And we say, there's one there, there's one there, there's one there. I don't like the look of her. She looks a bit rough. And the things we used to do down the docks, it probably wasn't a very safe thing to do. But that was like, oh, come on, I know, let's go down and count prostitutes down the docks. Well, you wouldn't do it today, would you? Man, not that there are any there now, because it's the bay, so it's quite posh. I was always getting into trouble, and I was always disappearing. Oh, she must have told the vicar. So the vicar came, and he said, Rosalind, God is watching you. And I said, tell him to mind his own business. There we are, that's what we used to do, for fun.